Good morning. It's great to be with you here today. We've had some great conversations since the summit kicked off yesterday morning. And we've seen some incredible technologies on display at the Tech Showcase. Every year, I'm always amazed at the ingenuity of our project teams. In this morning's programming, we're talking about how to drive ideas from concept to impact. We heard Mr. Royan talk about the need for new ideas and new models. Later, we'll hear from Mr. Hager as he talks about one of the most revolutionary technologies of the 20th century, the Haber-Bosch process, and how it evolved from a concept in the lab to massive scale technology that changed the world. Many of us do or have spent much of our time in the lab. This is the core of innovation, where discovery happens, where unknown facts become known, where ideas are tested, and where secrets are found. But we recognize that solving big problems goes beyond the lab. That's why we're here today. This work is important because it provides direction to the work being done in the lab, and it's needed to move technologies to market and to impact. ARPA-E is here to support technologists with their work both in and out of the lab. While we do provide about $250 million per year for high-risk, high-potential R&D, Congress understood from our inception the importance of turning that R&D into impact. That's why they mandated that we spend at least 5% of our budget advancing our project's commercialization efforts. Supporting technologists with their journeys beyond the lab is the fundamental principle of the tech-to-market model at ARPA-E. Our tech-to-market team applies these efforts to both focused programs and individual projects. ARPA-E develops focus programs to tackle specific technical challenges and to bring diverse teams together to find new solutions. While creating a program, we look beyond what's technically feasible to assure the work we fund matters. We identify key requirements for the integration of technology into products, such as performance and price criteria, value chain analysis, and community building. We identify what strategic connections need to be made and begin building those relationships. We also talk to industry and investors to understand where the opportunities and constraints are, both now and in the future. But we apply this same diligence to individual projects. This typically starts by determining where the opportunity exists to accelerate the team's movement towards the market. We help teams develop and test their commercialization hypothesis. We work with teams on their techno-economic analysis to better understand their cost structures and their cost sensitivities. We prepare teams to communicate effectively with strategic partners and financiers and often make those initial connections. Over the past 8 years, we've put about 600 project teams under contract. And in analyzing these, we found that there are 3 key insights common to all successful technologists. 600 project teams have taught us quite a lot. The first key insight is that working outside the lab is an iterative process that needs to start early. Successful technologists begin collecting data outside the lab at about the same time they've been collecting data inside the lab. This data provides direction for their experimentation and thus helps avoiding technologies that the market, frankly, wouldn't be interested in adopting. This iterative customer discovery begins by first developing a hypothesis of technologists think the customer wants, and then testing that hypothesis with real potential customers. The data is collected and then analyzed, and conclusions are drawn based on the evidence. Clearly, the customer discovery process done outside the lab is quite similar to the scientific discovery process done inside the lab. In performing this customer discovery, technologists sometimes find that they need to target different customers than they originally thought. This is the process Dr. Joanna Eisenberg from SLIPS was talking about in this morning's video. The next key insight is the need to conceive, test, and debate new ideas within the scientific community. Many of us recognize the value of disciplinary collaboration, but successful technologists force themselves outside of their technical silos. This is why great research facilities like Apple, Google, IBM, and dare I say ARPA-E, have designed workspaces so technologists have coincidental conversations that could lead to new ways and new approaches for solving problems. The final key insight is that successful technologists rely on additional communities beyond their technical fields. While collaboration amongst scientists has led to revolutionary ideas, in order to have an impact on the world, you need to leverage the broader energy community. Involvement from industry, government, and the financial sector is required for technology to have an impact. That's why ARPA-E brings these groups together here at the summit. Industry is important throughout the life cycle of technology development because it provides critical evidence from idea conception through full scaling, and it's where technologies are scaled into production. This evidence includes information about who would buy it, how much they would be willing to pay, and how quickly they would adopt it. But this beyond the lab evidence is critical for providing direction to technologists to assure that they are developing solutions in a market-viable parameter space. Another key part of our community is government, and not just for funding, but for the thought leadership that looks well into the future and imagines what's possible. DARPA at the Department of Defense illustrates the impact that government can have. DARPA has created many technologies that help us maintain our military superiority. And some of these have translated into our everyday lives. Mr. Royan was talking about this earlier. Look at your mobile phone and you'll see internet, cell communications, touchscreens, GPS, Siri, microchips, the list goes on. All of these are examples of government thought leadership envisioning and investing in new ideas. Additionally, government provides an important first market for technologists because many applications, especially the military, are willing to pay a premium for performance. This is important when first transitioning in technology to market and ramping up the volumes. The financial sector, plays an important role as well. No big problems are solved without sufficient and appropriate financing to support continued development, demonstration, and scaling. Financing technology development can be complex and dynamic because of changing market landscapes, such as the expansion of markets into developing regions and geopolitical changes. However, the sector is developing new financing models, and in fact, we'll be exploring some of those new models in a panel session later today entitled Innovative Capital Solutions for Innovative Energy Technologies. Fortunately, these important members of our energy innovation community are right here in the room with us today. I'm going to tell you a little secret. That's why we do this summit. For the technologists, I encourage you to spend much of the rest of your time here at this summit working on each of these three key elements. Collect data about your impact hypothesis with real potential customers. Test and debate new ideas with colleagues. Discuss collaboration opportunities with industry, government, and financiers to listen to them and understand what their needs are. The evidence shows that these three insights have worked for many of our project teams and can work for you as well. What's exciting to me is that the people in this room can develop ingenious ideas and can follow these insights to change the world.